Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben, and
I'm your co-host, Carissa.
Perfect. Yeah, and everyone, welcome into the Computer America Show. So today on the program, we have a full show dedicated to computer and technology news. And it's going to be fun because there's a lot of stories that happened over the 3-day weekend. And everyone out there, I hope that you had a great one. And of course, I should ask Carissa, how was your long weekend?
Pretty good. I actually went downtown last night with my mask on, of course, and kind of did some restaurant hopping and got some drinks and some little appetizers and stuff. So kind of just went out and hung out in the nice weather. Yeah.
Sounds like a fun time, indeed. That's more than I've done in quite a while. So that's so that's exciting. And everyone out there, we hope that you're staying safe too. And hey, you're not getting stir crazy. So everyone, as I said before, today on the program, Computer and Technology News. If you want to find out more, computeramerica.com is the best place to go. You can find past shows, future shows. Let's see, we have the video archives, audio archives, podcasts, articles, reviews, and a whole bunch more. Check it out. We try to keep it updated as much as we can, and we definitely appreciate you taking a look. So computeramerica.com. Find us on social media. We'll be doing more with that in a bit, but I gotta say that everything all said, I think that Carissa, unless there's anything else, we should just get to it.
I'm ready.
All right, perfect. So everyone, computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. Let's go ahead and start talking about some things. So everyone, computer technology news, our goal here is to try to find the latest and greatest articles and topics and everything from policy, lately politics, only politics as they relate to technology, and of course new products, services, things like that. A lot of announcements, some leaks here and there. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Carissa, I don't think that you have anywhere you'd like to start in particular, so I'm going to take the initiative and say, man, there's like 20 different stories that we can talk about. So I wanted to start with this one. This was big news this weekend. And speaking of leaks, that's exactly what this was. So everyone, here we go. Let's go ahead and get started with this one. Xbox Series X, which is the next version of the Xbox console, reportedly will cost $500 and arrive on November 10th. So we have some leaks. Usually how these things happen is, either some website, some publication, they get the material, they're under embargo, they say, hey, don't say anything just yet, but get everything ready so that when we do announce it, you can immediately put it up on your website and, promote it. But sometimes things happen and they push the update live instead of putting it, kind of for later. And that is probably what happened, probably what happened this time. And here we go. So we knew about the launch date, and we weren't very sure. We were speculative on the price, but here we are now at $499. This is confirmed. I think that a lot of people, myself included, would have put it somewhere in the neighborhood of kind of $399 to $450. And as you said before, the Xbox Series S, which is the lesser version, which we have news about that as well, will be was going to be about $30 less, though that is not the case. They say that the publications report, and this is from Windows Central, they have a specific date and even a price point for the next console. They report that it comes on the heels of a leak that showed what the Xbox Series S, which is expected to be a diskless console, could look like. And so we even have a mock-up of that. But here we go. According to Windows Central, Microsoft will offer a $35 per month, yes, another subscription, everyone, Xbox All Access financing option for the Series X. So instead of obviously shelling out $500, well, you are now looking at a $35 a month console that, let's see, Chris, what does that work out to? I'm not greatest with financing. What's 18 times 35? Man, I should know this off the top of my head, but I totally don't. 630. Okay, so that's probably not it. So probably 12 times 35 is going to be 420. Hey, funny coincidence. But no, in some manner, they're going to break this down into $35 payments, and yeah, you're going to hop onto a payment plan. They said that let's talk about that real quick, Carissa. Of course, I've been buying Xbox consoles ever since the first Xbox, and unfortunately, nowadays my parents don't buy them for me anymore. But that was the struggle. That was the kind of the cost struggle that you had with your parents. Is like, hey, I know that there's not a lot of money flying around, but you should totally find $400, $500
laying around for this Xbox that I need right now.
Yeah, but that wasn't always an option, and of course you had to wait till like a major holiday. Even if you did get it, you had to wait till Christmas, and it was, oh my god. But now $35 a month. Do you think that would appeal to more people as opposed to one lump sum?
Absolutely, that appeals to me. Like, I was kind of on the fence about getting one specifically for that Fable game that we were talking about, but I didn't want to pay that much money for the system. But I'm much more likely to spend, $30 a month to get the system. Especially if it's not, overcharging you if you're not collecting like interest and stuff on it. It's just like a regular payment plan. I think it's going to make it a lot more accessible for people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's going to be a lot more accessible at $35 a month. And of course, I'm hoping eventually, like all financing kind of does, it will end and eventually you just own the console outright. So they say so they say that Microsoft will reportedly offer a $25 a month Xbox All Access financing for the Xbox Series S. And by the way, Carissa, money being tight for people out there, the Xbox Series X, which we talked about the difference in the two consoles hardware-wise, but I was not expecting this. After hearing about the hardware, it kind of made sense that I pegged it at like $50 less, or even kind of $100 less. But yeah, the Xbox Series S, which is going to be a next-gen console, you're looking at $299 as opposed to $499. $200 cheaper. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, and again, just to refresh a lot of people's memories, if you don't recall the difference between the two, Xbox Series X is kind of really beefy for console. There's a lot of hardware packed into it, and they promise things like 4K gaming at 60 FPS, or in some cases, virtual reality ready, things like that. It will be your powerhouse. And then the Xbox Series S, they promise 1440p gaming. So this is, a little bit better than 1080p. It will be much more crisp. It will offer, I think, like 120 frames per second is what they're kind of shooting for with this, but at a lesser resolution. So, and the hardware is not as good as the Series X. So it's not even like diskless or not diskless, but more what's going to last you longer. And of course, the Xbox Series X is going to last you longer. But I think at $300, if most, if not all, games coming to the next gen consoles of Xbox, this at least gets people into the game. At $300, there's a much lower starting point for getting into the next gen of games. So that's definitely good to hear. The Series S will be available November 10th as well. And they say that obviously Xbox Series X, the more expensive one, has backwards compatibility and will be capable of 4K gaming. I'm going to put a giant maybe on that because we've seen a lot of consoles promise that, but the frame rate, they're going to try their best. Meanwhile, the Series S will be less powerful, 1080p and 1440p gaming, and of course, less RAM and a less powerful CPU. So, options. That's something that consoles really haven't offered before. Your options for game consoles kind of came later. Like with the current Xbox One, you had your Xbox One S, which was a slimmed down version, but that didn't come out, I want to say, it's like a year or 18 months after the original one came out. It's always been, one PlayStation 4, one Xbox, one every other console, and now we're kind of getting into the PC world where you have different configurations of hardware at different price points. Could be good as long as everything stays homogeneous. Like as long as games don't end up being, only for the Xbox Series X and not for the Xbox Series S. Everything has to work together, but it's not a bad option.
I think a good way to kind of counteract that would be maybe like instead of, being cross-compatible between the systems, let's say you get a proof of purchase of the game that you had previously for the other system, and then you give that to them and they're like, oh, here's a new copy of the game. So maybe you could even trade up for maybe a lower cost even.
I would love a system like Steam where you have a library and, especially, with Microsoft made that partnership with Steam with the Master Chief Collection for the Halo games. I would even love it if it was Steam that you could purchase it once, it's added to your library, and then it doesn't matter what console or hardware, PC, whatever that you play it on, as long as it's compatible and the hardware can handle it, you then just play it. Like, I would appreciate it if... That would be
so nice.
Yeah, I would definitely appreciate it if you just buy it into a library and then you have it forever, regardless of the hardware.
I agree. That sounds really great because I run into that all the time now because I've got the Xbox, or I've had the Xbox, the Steam, my Switch, and like half the stuff I want on the Switch is just the stuff that I have on the computer. I just don't want to play it on the computer. So it would be nice to be able to put that stuff directly on the Switch from the computer if that was possible. But that's a dream.
That would
probably not going to do that.
That would be very consumer friendly. I think you're right. That would be a dream, but I'm hoping that they can work on it. So there you go. So everyone, we're going to go ahead and continue on. So that was the first story, and yeah, we have details. Again, just to recap of that, November 10th, mark your calendars, and then your two price points are going to be $499 and $299 for the two different consoles. And that was a leak that happened over this weekend. So that's new information, and as far as I can tell, you can pretty much take that to the bank. That is what you're going to be looking at. So okay, with and by the way, just real quick, if you're watching the video portion out there, they even have some renders made up of what it's going to look like. And let's see, I think I can mute this site. Here we go. Yeah, this is a render of what the Xbox Series S will look like, the smaller one, and it's much smaller in size. It almost looks like a speaker with a large round audio port on it, and of course there's vent ports as well. But yeah, you will not confuse the two. You will not be like, is this the X or the S? And I think it'll be very clear very quickly where those come from. So there you go. There's that story. Story number 2. Let's talk about this one. So, Carissa, I don't know how plugged in you were this weekend. You said that you were out having a good time. For everyone else out there, they were having a good time at home too. But check this out. It was for a completely different reason. And that's because they got a package of seeds. And I remember hearing about this. I was like, that's a weird one. So let's talk about this real quick. This happened 2 days ago. So, Hopefully anyone who received these seeds has already gotten the proper information on what to do with them. But here we go. This is from Engadget, John Fingus, Amazon. They have banned foreign sales of plants in the U.S. after mysterious seed deliveries. And of course, there's a concern. It is a coordinated threat to agriculture. Now, Carissa, just real quick, have you ever purchased seeds online?
I have not actually.
I actually am in a household where I totally do receive plants and seeds and bulbs on a regular basis online, more than once. And just due to the nature of how we kind of go about planting them, I've had plants pop up that were not what we ordered. When everything is in seed or in bulb form, it's very hard to tell what you're going to get. You just kind of have to trust it. And of course, not going to name where we get them from, but they're at least reputable enough that we're not really concerned that we're going to destroy the entirety of the US ecosystem. Now, this is not the case, because you could do this with these seeds, saying that the US and other countries have been dealing with a wave of strange, unexpected seed shipments this summer, and Amazon has decided that the best solution is to clamp down, saying that the Wall Street Journal has learned that Amazon has banned all sales of foreign plants and seeds in the US, whether they're imports or sales inside the country by non-US residents. It's an effort to protect our customers and enhance the customer experience, according to the email. So yeah, let's talk about what really happened here. And again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see the seeds there. They are in plastic, clear plastic. You can clearly see that they are seeds. As to what they are unmarked, unlabeled. Who the heck knows? So everyone.
And nobody's grown them yet. Nobody knows what they are at all.
Well, it just happened this weekend, actually.
It's actually been going around for a few weeks now.
Yeah, and I think even then, though, it would take even some time to find out what it was. But real quick, let me get this paragraph out, and then I want your reaction, Carissa. But tens of thousands of Americans have received mysterious seed shipments over the past few months, as she just said. Most have been postmarked as coming from China and have often been falsely labeled as another product. At least some of them were potentially harmful to U.S. agriculture, including noxious weeds, plant diseases, and even pests.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So over the past, so definitely over the past few months, and this, don't get me wrong, that's part of ordering plants, is that you get sometimes seeds that you don't really order, or in some cases, because hey, they have to grow them at some place, there's going to be pests, there's going to be weeds that kind of get in there. If you ever buy wildflower mix, everyone, you are undoubtedly paying for 40% weed, which is like ragweed and other types of plants, but that kind of comes with the territory. The problem, though, is that we don't know where it's from, and we don't know what effect it will have on the landscape. Carissa, you're from the South. I'm sure that you've heard of the problems people are having with kudzu, for instance.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Usually you'll rent a goat or something, and he'll get out there and eat all of it for a while, herds of goats.
I know, and throwing goats up into trees is very hard. It's hard to get all the kudzu that is just taking over.
And you can't get the goats out, it's difficult.
I know, and then they live up there, and then you have tree goats. It's awful. But there are other solutions, and really there's no good solution, though. It's very labor intensive, it costs a lot of money, and just you can see how an invasive species really can have a huge impact on an area, and that's what the US is warning about these seeds, because they really don't know what they are, where they come from, or anything like that. And I know that this article said it might have been a coordinated attempt to impact the US, but hopefully everyone out there doesn't just kind of get free seeds and go, Carissa's first reaction, let's grow these and see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, hopefully not a lot of people did that, and definitely didn't just kind of throw them out the window. But
sprinkle them in your neighbor's yard.
Yeah, and of course, as the article says, this isn't necessarily an attack. One main theory suggests that the seeds were part of a brushing scam where vendors pay people, which are brushers, to order cheap products and write bogus reviews to spur sales. Amazon maintained that seed deliveries from its site were real orders delayed due to COVID-19, but it's investigating possible links between its site, the packages, and possible brushing. So again, brushing is this idea that, and Chris, I don't know if you've ever run into this, but with certain products, especially products that are like under $5, they will send them to you with a note attached saying, hey, if you go to our Amazon page, leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment, take a screenshot of that, and then email us back, we'll refund you your money. Like, you buy something that you already want, but then you do that, and then you get your money back. So they're essentially paying $3 or $4 for a good review on Amazon that is completely undetectable by spam and fake review bots, because it's obviously a real review from a real account.
That's interesting. I've never heard about that.
Yep, it's something that Amazon is definitely trying to tackle. And let's see. Wow, this is not the link I wanted. That's so weird. Here we go. Wait. Here we go. For some reason, Engadget. Well, I guess Engadget is owned by Yahoo, so that definitely goes about it. So we're not going to talk about this article, but it's this one here from a couple of months ago, saying that Amazon is trying to really commit to taking down fake, bogus, and of course bad reviews, as well as products themselves. But China is a very prolific spammer. They will bombard any way that they can with a wave of fake products. So that's a losing battle. There you go. So Chris, I see that you have a couple there. I wanted to do one more and then we'll take a look at some of yours. But this next article, China is just on a tear. There have been like 5 or 6 different stories about China that seemed... there was one of the top ones was that China banned the MIT programming language for children, which I want to say was like Swift, but it wasn't Swift. Scratch. There we go. Scratch. The other Pokemon move. It was Scratch that China banned their kids from learning because they said that it was promoting bad morals or whatever it was. Anyways. There's that one. There was the one about these Chinese seeds. There was another one about how China was looking to form an international coalition for data protection, which is ironic because China is one of the major sources of data theft in the world. And so for them to kind of go about and say, hey, we want to make the rules, not a lot of people took them seriously. So there you go. Now, this fourth one, China says... And by the way, whenever an article starts with China says, huge grain of salt, just the largest block of salt you've ever seen. So let's go and talk about this. China says it landed a reusable spacecraft after a 2-day flight. So Carissa, have you been keeping up to date with anything that SpaceX has been doing with their reusable spacecrafts?
Just a little bit, not super in depth, but I've been kind of having a look here and there.
Yeah, so the new wave, the new trend in spaceflight is almost like the space shuttle of yesteryear, but of course with modern takes on it. But is this idea of reusable parts, where it would fly up, deliver a payload, be it satellites or something to the International Space Station or whatever, and then come back down and then be completely, refueled and checked for damage and, kind of replace anything that isn't really working. But, kind of overall reuse the $40 to $100 million spacecraft instead of just dumping it in the ocean, calling it, done. Great economic idea to reuse your hundreds of millions of dollars pieces of equipment, and looks like China is trying to push that they have the exact same thing. Check this one out. The country's state-run Xinhua news agency And they say that an experimental reusable spacecraft successfully landed on September 6th after spending 2 days in orbit. Or so they say. Details of the vehicle and its mission are highly secretive, and China hasn't even provided imagery as we write this, saying that, it's not clear what the spacecraft accomplished or even how it flew, assuming that the report is accurate.
Well, is there any proof that it actually went up at all?
There's not even proof that this thing exists. Again, no photographs were released of this thing.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's but it's being pushed by Chinese state media and by news agencies. They're reporting that it's definitely done. So they're saying that there are hints that it might be a rough counterpart to the U.S. Air Force's X-37B space plane, which I have not heard anything about. So the X-37, let's see, this was published back in May, and it looks like it looks like the spaceplane has been doing pretty good. So, who knew? The Air Force has a spaceplane. Good for them. Now, in 2017, China said it wanted to launch an aircraft-like reusable space vehicle by 2020, and the China Aerospace Science Technology Corporation hoped to have the plane ready by 2025, albeit primarily for space tourism. I don't know if I would trust that, but there you go. Take your life into your own hands. So they only said that the aircraft represented an important breakthrough in China's development of the reusable spacecraft, and that they could provide cheaper, more convenient solutions for the peaceful use of space. In other words, it might lower the cost of delivering payloads into space and allow for quicker turnaround times, which again is kind of the end game for Tesla and SpaceX. It's the end game for the Air Force. And actually, I think all this now falls under the Space Force, if I'm not mistaken. So the Space Force. So there you go. There are details for the rocket that launched the space plane, and I think that is the image that if you're looking up on the screen, we don't have images. This image is of the rocket that helped deliver the space plane to space, and then of course it would have taken off and kind of been self-guided, but. I'm so very skeptical of this one, Chris. I can't even begin to tell you, but I thought it was interesting.
I like the idea of it.
Yeah.
The concept's good.
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
I like the idea of it. Like, I like the idea of having the space plane, and then it's more commercial. You can kind of take that maybe to the moon eventually or something like that. Set up your little Disneyland out there, that kind of thing.
Yes, the lunar park. Where you hear about whalers and things like that. Yeah, definitely. Whalers on the moon, absolutely. But I gotta say that this, again, very reminiscent of what the space shuttle was. But of course, the space shuttle was decommissioned back in the early 2000s or late 2000s. There are different solutions, and a lot of people are trying different things. But I think China really wanted to kind of put something out there and say, hey, look, we're doing it too, even if they technically weren't doing it too. So very skeptical of that, but there you go. So Carissa, you have dug up a couple of stories, and before I look at each one of these individually and take 2 seconds, which one of these that you sent is, do you think is one of the most interesting?
T-Mobile's plan to give people free internet.
Sure, we can do that. And this is definitely going to help. I can only assume, I have not read the article, but I can only assume that this is going to help with low income and underserved populations. So there you go. T-Mobile. They, T-Mobile just merged with Sprint, I believe. But of course, Sprint became T-Mobile. So although I got to say that, Carissa, you weren't on the show when that was going through, and of the coverage that we did, we found that was a very bad move for consumers, and especially a bad move for lower income and people who didn't really pay a lot, because part of the deal that they made with the Federal Trade Commission was that T-Mobile would spin off its Cricket Wireless subsidiary, and Sprint would spin off its lower income and lower tier plans into a new joint company that I think would remain Cricket Wireless. And so essentially what happened was T-Mobile and Sprint said, by allowing us to merge, we would better compete with Verizon and AT&T to serve people, and more competition is great. People were very concerned that you somehow went from 4 carriers to 3 carriers, and then you somehow said, oh, there's going to be more competition with one less carrier. Both of these companies said, like I said, their lower tier services would, kind of be spun off and combined into a 4th carrier. This worked out really well for T-Mobile and Sprint because they got to drop the lower profit margin. Like, clearly if you're paying, $20 a month for a bare minimum, X amount of minutes, X amount of data, X amount of whatever, you're not making as much money as opposed to, let's say, Verizon with one of these $100 data plans. So both AT&T and Sprint were able to spin off their lower earning businesses, combine their higher earning businesses, and it definitely hurt the low income earners and the low income communities because they got actually less service and less reliable service.
I can actually confirm that. I use T-Mobile and it's become garbage since that merger happened. I can't send or receive photos in my text messages, my the data services. Mm-hmm. None of that really works. I can't really get phone calls half the time. So it's not been good. And we use the standard, we've got a little bit of a contract and stuff, so we're not on the super low tier. We only pay $100 a month, but we're on specifically T-Mobile, and it's just been a not good time.
Yeah, they claimed that they were able to better compete if they were allowed to do this, and then they were allowed to do this, and then the improvements to network just did not pan out the way that they said they would. And by the way, we have another follow-up story to this about 5G and the rollout of that. So, but let's talk about this real quick and here. So the people who did not have good service before definitely took a hit from this. So let's see what T-Mobile's doing to address this, because I think that a lot of this was kind of forced onto them because, to go through that with that merger. So last year, T-Mobile promised free internet for 10 million U.S. homes in an effort to eliminate the homework gap. There we go, the homework gap. Provided its merger with Sprint went through. Like I said, they gave a lot of incentives and a lot of goodies so that they could make a lot of money. So now that the merger has happened, the combined company has opened up applications for its Project 10 Million plan and revealed how it will work. Here we go. T-Mobile has allocated $10.7 billion over the 10-year life of the program and made it available to all students who are part of a national school lunch program for low-income families. And Carissa, I'm not the most well-versed into free or reduced lunch. That's what it was in Florida. And, it was tied to a parent's income. And each zip code, you had your students, and if they qualified for this and they get a bunch of this, I don't think, and don't get me wrong, there were a lot of students that were struggling, that they didn't have a lot and the families didn't have a lot, but at the same time, they didn't meet the requirements for reduced or free lunch at schools. I don't know how I feel about this being tied to that program in particular.
Yeah, I don't know about that either. And that also falls into a lot of other things too, like healthcare, because there's this sweet spot where it's you have to make, like a decent wage where you can survive, but you still don't make enough to pay for healthcare. Mm-hmm. So it's it just falls into that weird window thing. And I don't think the kids should have to suffer for that. I think it should be completely different and associated, I don't know, with maybe more individual things rather than, the school lunch program.
Yeah, it's certainly not the best way to go about it, but I can see how they would do that as kind of like a starting point, because it is a very quick and efficient way to determine families in need, and I guess tying it to school lunches makes sense for this. The homework gap that they're talking about, I just don't think it's the best way to do it. But anyways, school districts can apply for a grant sharing other student zip codes so that T-Mobile can confirm service availability. The schools will take care of the hotspot distribution, with T-Mobile service chipping in, helping for setup and tech support. The company said that, which, by the way, schools are not very good at setting up these things. Man, T-Mobile is really phoning the. I almost feel like it would be better if they just wrote a blank check or not blank check, but a $10 billion check for school districts, as opposed to making all the school districts jump through all these hoops for their students. So anyways, the company said that once an application is approved, which can take mere hours, they said, the school can give each student a free hotspot and 100 gigs of data over a year, or around 8 gigs a month. 8 gigs a month. Carissa, on a phone, 8 gigs a month is pretty good. I think that on a computer, and obviously for research and for submitting homework and things like that, I feel like 8 gigabytes per month is not a lot of data for a home PC.
It's really not, especially if, let's say, you're like a teenager or something, and you're also listening to music while you're doing it too, or streaming the video. Yeah, playing a game, whatever it is. Like, they're going to do what they're going to do, whether you're watching them or not.
Yeah.
So, 8 gigs is not enough. Not even remotely enough.
It's obviously, if you think that...
it's straight homework, and that's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, and that's...
fine, but...
Yeah, that's exactly. If you think that students are going to use their data for anything else other than submitting their homework and maybe doing some research for their homework, which is not the world that we live in. Students are going to, like you said, they're going to stream video, they're going to watch YouTube, they're going to listen to music, they're going to talk with their friends, they're going to do social media. That 8 gigs is going to burn through so fast. They said that obviously that's not a lot for doing Zoom calls, which makes sense. A lot of students are also home doing Zoom, and that takes a lot of data. But schools can, of course, also take grant money and apply it to discounted T-Mobile plans to offer 100 gigs a month of, by the way, they can take the grants and apply for discounted T-Mobile plans that offer 100 gigs of monthly data. So what they allocated for free for the entire year, they're offering that for a month, for $12 a month, or unlimited data for $15 a month. Don't get me wrong, $15 a month for unlimited data, I think a lot of people out there would say, that's really good. They would pay for that. I would pay for that. But for
some
obvious... For obviously for households that can't even afford to do this, asking another $15 a month for that privilege seems like it almost seems like they're trying to create another revenue stream. Instead of being altruistic, they're being kind of greedy, but who knows? So obviously they said that the company can also provide tablets and laptops at cost. How nice of them. Not every school district, definitely. Not every school district will conduct classes online, but 13 of the nation's largest school districts plan to open the school year with online learning. And they said that the $10.7 billion figure likely involves some creative accounting, and T-Mobile will certainly reap public relations good with the move. However, the benefits to low-income families are tangible and will be exponentially higher now when the program was announced late last year. It wasn't just about connectivity before and after school and correspondence with their teacher via email. Now it's literally, if you don't have connectivity, you can't do school. And they even include a link, which we'll include in the show notes as well. How to apply. But man, I guess this is, $10 billion does a lot of good. And I feel so bad saying that $10 billion in this manner won't really accomplish that much. But that's definitely how I'm feeling. And like the article said, that $10 billion figure, Carissa, they said that they would offer tech support and installation fees. What if the company said that paying tech support technicians and kind of installation services came out of that $10 billion fund? What if the fund runs out of money 4 or 5 years after this whole thing's done? Are they just going to wrap it up early, or are they going to extend it? So much about this is like, the idea is good. Students need internet connection, not just for school, but for social life, for entertainment, for so many reasons.
Everything. That's the world we live in now. You're connected to the internet. Everyone's on the internet. Definitely.
And, kids need that, and especially for school, but also for other things. And this one seems to completely gloss over the fact that, hey, it's probably not going to get you very far. But, however that $10 billion is divided up, cut up, and however much actually reaches families, I hope that those families are actually able to, get the most out of it, because there really is a problem. And if nothing else, this may bring more attention to that technology divide that we currently live in. So, okay. There's that one. Very interesting. And actually, the follow-up story to that was this one. So we just picked on Verizon for not being as altruistic as we would have liked. So let's pick on AT&T a little bit. This is a story from Ars Technica saying that the current 5G is slower than 4G in nearly every city tested by PCMag.
I believe it.
But you shouldn't have to, or, you don't want to believe it, because we've been hearing so much hype about 5G. It's going to be 100 gigabytes up and down. It's going to be, super fast, and it's going to unleash so much productivity and performance boost and blah, 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 blah.
But that was such a tall order, though. I don't know. I was kind of expecting it to kind of end up this way, honestly.
And from a technology point of view, there is a tangible upgrade, but as we said before, we know that, and this has been my stance for the longest time. 5G is coming, and 5G is going to change a lot about how we operate within cities, and how, kind of what we consider internet connected and what we don't. But my problem is the timeline. It's always seemed so rushed, so condensed, that we can say, oh, by 2021, we'll have, 90% of the U.S. population with access to 5G. That seemed years ahead of anything that was actually reasonable, considering that, Chris, I don't know if you know this, but for every one 4G tower that you need to provide 4G and 4G LTE, you need 10 times as many 5G towers, because of the reduced range of 5G as opposed to 4G. And not only that, 5G is also more interfered with things like air pollution, solid objects, walls, cars, trees, so on and so forth. You need a very clear line of sight to get that full range of 5G. So yeah, you need like 10 times as many towers. And I don't see a lot of cities kind of embracing the idea of installing 10 times as many cell phone towers within the city.
No, it's going to clutter things too much, and it's going to make a lot of, issues for planning and things like that. I mean, I guess you could put them on top of buildings or something like that, but even still, then you worry about, how far down does it go? So if you're putting it on a skyscraper, how far down the building does it go? And then is it too high? Is it going to hit an airplane?
Well, it's, they come in all different shapes and sizes, the antennas, but even if you put them on the sides of every building, on top of every building, like you said, you even have to count for, the top of the building versus the bottom of the building. It's, there's just so much hardware that has to be installed and rolled out, that this was always overpromised. And I think AT&T actually did the country a disservice when they said that they were going to, AT&T said that they had 5G, 5GE, which is like 5G evolution or whatever it was, they promised it was 5G, but it wasn't actually 5G. It was somewhere in between 4G LTE and 5G, but it wasn't really that. But they wanted to get the 5G into their phones. So I bring all this up because now they're actually testing it. In PCMag's annual mobile network testing released today, 5G phones connected to AT&T got slower speeds than 4G in 21 out of 22 cities. And we can actually just, kind of go straight to the article itself here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching the video portion, actually, I'm going to link this to Carissa just real quick here. Make sure you have that. But you can see here up on my screen the fastest mobile networks for 2020. And by the way, the overall winner, as put forth by PCMag, is actually, I have something for this. The winner of the overall fastest mobile network of 2020 is Verizon. Yeah, there you go. Wait. Nope, I only have large. I gotta get a little golf clap. But anyways, Verizon, they were the number one. Maximum speed 2 gigs. 2 gigs. That's actually almost like 5G speeds. So Verizon is actually rolling out 5G pretty darn well. 2,000 megabytes per second. That's incredibly fast. And I think that most people, as far as 4G LTE goes, I want to say about 400 megabytes per second is what you can expect for 4G. So it's about 5 times faster than 4G. So Verizon's doing good. They said that the average was only about 100 or about 105 megabits per second. So obviously, if you're in New York, LA, San Francisco, so on and so forth, you might expect to see some of those much, much higher speeds. But for the vast majority of out there, you're looking at about 100 megabits per second. And the percentage of above 10 megabits per second is 94% of the time, which not bad, except here we go. T-Mobile actually had the worst with 87% coverage of above 10 megabits per second. Carissa, if you're having problems with sending pictures and receiving text and things like that, that's under 10 megabits per second can definitely cause that. So, and then they also have another chart here for upload speed, and obviously upload is going to be a little bit slower. And Verizon, let's see, the best upload was T-Mobile, but that really doesn't matter all that much because uploading something, most people don't upload nearly as much as they download. So there you go.
Plus usually using Wi-Fi,
I'm sorry, what?
Plus you're usually using Wi-Fi, not the carrier data.
True. Yeah, this is only for 4G and 5G service, not Wi-Fi whatsoever. So, by the way, the last one, though, here we go. 5G availability. And here's the difference. That's why you have your highest speeds at over 2 gigabytes per second with Verizon, but then your average is only 100, is because your 5G availability, you're looking at only 4% of Verizon customers have access to 5G networks. And of course, those numbers are actually much, much better when it comes down to AT&T and T-Mobile. You're looking at 38% for AT&T and 54% for T-Mobile. But the concern there is that even though AT&T and, actually T-Mobile has the best 5G network out there. Let's see. They have the best 5G networks out there, but at the same time, there we go. The issue is that, it doesn't really matter because no one has access to it. And even when they do, the speeds really aren't that good. So, let's see, any other little tidbits? So obviously 5G, not as fast as 4G, and they have some charts here that can show that. Their main point there is that, like I said before, AT&T is pushing this 4G LTE, kind of lie, I guess would be the best word for it. They're pushing this 5G lie, which is actually slower in a lot of cases to regular 4G LTE service. So if you don't have 5G, then it's whatever. And by the way, Carissa, just to put everyone else at ease, unless you have, I think it's only like there's an upcoming Google phone, there's an upcoming iPhone, there are of course upcoming Samsung phones, and a number of like LG phones, I think, as well. But Yeah, the only phone with 5G connectivity is going to be the Samsung S20 that has the 5G antenna built into the phone to actually take advantage of this. So even though we are really trying to catch them, say, oh, they're not, they're lying about their speeds and it's really not that good. This really doesn't affect a whole lot of people, just only those with 5G capable phones, which are very, very few people.
Right, so they're not going to be able to get accurate numbers until that's all dealt with anyway.
Well, they're getting accurate numbers, and PCMag went out there with those 5G antennas, and they were testing the speeds themselves. The numbers speak for themselves as to the network robustness and the availability and the speeds and that kind of thing. I'm just saying that if you're concerned that I need to switch to Verizon because I have an iPhone 10 and I want to take advantage of this. Well, don't worry, the iPhone 10 does not have a 5G antenna in it. So yeah, unless again you are using a Samsung Galaxy S20 or whatever that phone is, don't worry about this for now. The next generation of phones, and definitely the flagship phones, and then in like a year or two, kind of the mid-range phones, then they will have 5G. But for now, it's only a select few. So there is that article, and we're going to go ahead and switch away from that. Let's see. So we have okay, you know what, Carissa? This will be fun. How much do you know about megapixels? Let's test you there, Carissa.
I know a little bit about megapixels. Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
Most people consider megapixels to be a good indicator of what a good camera can do. There was that 100 megapixel camera in the Samsung Galaxy S20, I believe. They had like a I'm sorry. That was a 100 times digital zoom, but I believe it had like a super high megapixel count. And there have been many phones over the years that have a really high megapixel count. But long story short, megapixel is not everything, but to researchers, they kind of went to the extreme with it. So check this one out here. This is about the highest megapixel digital photo that has been taken by researchers. And you can see it here. I think they even have a picture of the lens that was used to take the picture. And it's pretty incredible. It really is. So, okay. Stanford researchers. Whoops. There we go. Sorry about that. Stanford researchers have taken 3,200 megapixel photos, the largest ever, using a sensor that will be part of the world's largest digital camera, according to the SLAC National Accelerator Laboratory. The camera will be installed on the university's Legacy Survey of Space and Time telescope in Chile, which will study dark energy, dark matter, and create the largest astronomical movie of all time. The photos are so large, in fact, that it will take about 378 4K ultra high definition, although ultra high definition is implied because that's what 4K implies. Anyways, almost 400 4K photo, TV screens to display one of them full size. So, Carissa, think about that.
Wow.
400 TVs, 400 4K TVs set up in an array, and then you can kind of get a good idea of what a single photo would look like size-wise.
That's amazing.
It's going to be huge. So you can also see small, dim objects other cameras can't capture. The resolution is so high that you could see a golf ball 15 miles away. And the sensors can spot objects 100 million times dimmer than visible with the naked eye. So obviously that's going to be super, super helpful when spotting distant objects. Let's just hope that... let's just hope that those objects aren't SpaceX satellites flying through the low Earth orbit. But there you go. A golf ball from 15 miles away. Man, I can finally play golf again because I can finally see where that stupid thing goes. It's a joke. You know why? Because I can't hit anything even close to a mile. I suck. But yeah, sad days indeed. This staggering performance is made possible through 189 sensors known as charge-coupled devices that each measure 16 megapixels. So each one of these are packaged into a raft. There are 21 rafts plus 4 specialty rafts not used for imaging. Altogether, the focal plane contains about 3.2 billion pixels. That's a lot. 3.2, so obviously 3200 megapixels, 3.2 billion pixels. Each of the rafts, which, by the way, again, this thing has about 21 different rafts. Each of the rafts, which are the collection of the arrays, cost about $3 million a piece, and when inserted into a grid for the focal plane, over 6 nerve-wracking months. So it's going to take 6 months to install these things, and you're looking at about, at a minimum, $60 million in hardware alone. Crazy.
Just hoping we can see like the end of space with this thing, because this is gonna give us a lot of insight, I think, especially with how, if it's got all of that, it can see in the dark essentially.
I'm personally not looking forward to the end of space because I hope that there will always be an infinite. But one thing it might do is look back and see the history of space. Definitely.
Well, I guess you could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be more interesting for us, and because hey, we'll actually never see the edge of space because other reasons. But now let's go ahead and talk about this. While some other high stakes phases of the project are behind them, the team is still challenging work to do building the rest of the camera, and they said that it will start the final testing, so when it's finally ready to go will be mid 2021. This thing was just incredible, though. We talk about megapixels all the time. It was crazy impressive when there was a 100 megapixel camera, which was in the Samsung's new 108 megapixel camera, which was in the Samsung. That was in the Samsung something or other. It was designed for smartphones and it packed 108 megapixels. But even then, Carissa, they were like digital. Like they would like kind of fill in the gaps and give you artificial pixels, saying that this pixel is showing this color and this pixel is showing this color. So we're going to artificially fill in the pixel that would quote unquote be right between them, and it will show a similar color as those two. So it was like digital, like kind of tricking into thinking it could actually do it. And this though is just straight up 3200 or again 3.2 billion pixels capable. It's crazy.
Excellent. I also wonder, like with this device here, like could you in theory see onto other planets within the solar system as well?
Within our solar system?
Yeah. Like if they were close enough, could you just look at a planet and see what's down there?
Probably, but we've also sent probes to them, and I think that we can see pretty good. Like I don't know. We have sent launchers and kind of rovers and stuff like that to Moon and Mars and Mercury, and of course we've sent satellites. And there was the Cassini probe that we sent to Europa and Saturn and that kind of thing. This is probably again with the amount of information that it captures. I think they're going to be pointing this thing at the stars for a long time. So, yep, I think probes are the way to go for our local solar system, and then these cameras are better for much further away. So there you go. Now we have time for one more story, Carissa. Unless you have one of these articles here that you'd like to try. I think I wanted to do not this one. It would take too long. Okay, this is probably one of the. I'm sorry.
I say, let's use one of yours.
Okay, sure. This is probably one of the biggest news stories of the day, and why Nikola, if you follow stocks at all, why their stock went up 50% is because, hey, they finally got some industry validation. Nikola, if you haven't heard of them, yes, they are similarly named but unrelated to Tesla. Nikola Motor Company received a $2 billion injection of cash from General Motors, who took an 11% share in the company. They said that in return, it appears GM will do pretty much everything else: engineering, homologating, whatever, validating, manufacturing, everything. So essentially, the new Nikola trucks are going to be built in GM facilities. They said that this strategic partnership with Nikola, an industry-leading disruptor, continues the broader deployment of General Motors' all-new Ultium battery and Hydrotech fuel cell systems. They are growing our presence in multiple high-volume EV segments while building scale to lower batteries and fuel cell costs and increasing profitability. That's what GM chairperson said. I'm not the biggest fan of Nikola in general. The company seems really squirrely, and they kind of just exist from one bailout to the next. And I'm pretty sure that the owner of Nikola is Carissa, how do I put this?
Elon in a mask.
No, not even. Elon actually gets stuff done. This guy seems almost like a grifter, and he's riding the coattails of the excitement over electric vehicles. But if GM believes in them and they can actually get these vehicles to market, hydrogen fuel cell technology may actually become a thing, and that's worth being excited for. So everyone, new pickup truck potentially from Nikola. GM thinks it might happen. So everyone, hey, we're out of time, and I think the show went by very, very quickly, and I definitely liked it. Carissa, real quick, which story was your favorite? There we go.
I liked this last one here. This one was pretty cool. I mean, I agree with, I don't know if I necessarily like how this truck looks, but I like the prospect of having another option for an electric vehicle.
There you go. Yeah, so everyone, if you miss any of these stories, go over to computeramerica.com. We'll have it in the show notes. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much from here, myself, Carissa. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.